Everybody, and welcome back to Our Life Beginning and Always. Beginnings and Always. The last time that I did this, I did the fireflies. So we're gonna go ahead and pick up, just make sure that all of my audio is working how I want it. We're gonna go ahead and do the, we'll do Sandcastle and start there. Alrighty. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you, him, and Shiloh sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way he'd be swimming anytime soon, not with his cast. I forgot about his little pink cast. The waves washed just a single shell to shore, glittering in blue, another reminder of the places he couldn't go. From what you've heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces, until the barking stops. Hold on. Okay. From what you've heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell that he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. Like, make a pact with a witch or something, just to get it off his arm. You thought about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this, with his old home and his mom and his dad. But now he was here, with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go in the sea. This town wasn't bad, it had all your favorite things in it, but sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everyone else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye quietly, and he finally said aloud what you'd been pondering. I wish I could go in. The water? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna be able to do it soon. Cove only sighed in response. Apparently, soon wasn't soon enough. It's so pretty, the ocean. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids.
Yeah!
Yeah, swimming might be fun if we could, I would say. But it's not like there was anything we could do about it. Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before. It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Well, how do you do it then? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him. I'll play too. I've never really made one before either.
Okay.
He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started. Shiloh, focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided the two of you through this process. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared. That's all, kind of. You can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine's gonna be a real castle. Cool, this is gonna be a house. He's so simple. Okay, looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make mansion, like a haunted mansion. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided a mansion. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. Whose is that? Is that Cove's? You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you'd built. It seems you got it done so fast because they'd already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of the shells, but there were still options. The first thing he reached for was... Ooh, sea glass. It was the best fit for your mansion, you decided. It was see-through and sparkly, so you put it in a funny place where it'd take a second look to see it. Pleased with your result, you finally take a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. I'm gonna check out the sand house, sure. Shiloh was definitely the best one out of all three. The best one out of all three of you building sandcastles. His was also the smallest, but there were so many glittering debris and carved sand shapes all over the entire building that his effort was obvious. Shiloh's little house even had a tiny garden by the front door, and another one in the back, all made out of pebbles and other bits and bobs. The silence was then broken. What's on the top of yours, Shiloh? You peeked closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke.
Neat.
That's good, that's smart. Ah. Yeah, you should be an architect, bud. You'd be good at it, Shiloh. Smiled without saying a word. And that was that for the current topic. Evie, can I see what you did? Sure. He scooted just a bit nearer and began surveying your work. All you really know about mansions is that they were supposed to be big, so you'd gotten really big. It was the size of a country club that Lizzie played golf at, compared to Cove and Shiloh's buildings. Probably even bigger. Shiloh quickly decided to jump into the new conversation. Hey, what'd you do? This is my mansion. It looks great, your house is so big. It's not a big house, it's a mansion. Okay, no, I guess that they really are just big houses, yeah. Huh? Is being a house bad?
No.
No, but we each made our own place. Nobody's the same. I think we are. Cove raised an eyebrow at that. If something's the only one of that thing, that makes it special. Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says how everybody's their own man, a real individual. I don't think I'm very special.
Why?
Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head. I'm not different. A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. Okay. He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off. Again, there was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he noticed that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Evie? You waited to see if Shiloh would say what he wanted to. When he didn't, you considered Cove's question. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he still kind of was strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued.
Oh.
Well, I was there. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Evie's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna say what happened. Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could tell he was still upset about not being included in Cove's choice of topic. That was kind of boring for him, though. Giving people their own turn to say the things they want is important, too. Well, let Cove finish his story first, bro. And then you could talk, you know? Shiloh could talk about stuff after Cove had the chance to share what he planned on. When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of things with us. Only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat in there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed, he waved his hand and then went over to the front of the house where he started talking to him. I don't know what they said, I couldn't hear it, but he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and I left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time. Cove nodded, then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. Are you going to finish your story? Cove's brow wrinkled like he didn't understand why you were surprised. That's all that happened. Oh, okay. Okay. What is it? What? You said that in a weird way. I don't think I did. Cove narrowed his eyes at you, suspicious. Shallow's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why'd you bring that up anyway? There was a slight shrugging of Cove's shoulders.
Well,
I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved to here. Dad showed me the beach first, before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through the sand. I get it. You thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh, fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand, had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other, and you could only wonder what this might be about. Hey, Shiloh. Yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing's happening? Oh, poor dude. He's so embarrassed. Okay. Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. I don't know, I guess. Okay, it's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment, and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw, but it was a big deal to Shiloh. A huge deal. He didn't just look sad, he seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but soon you got an answer. Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody's named Cove.
who asked you to come?
Jesus. Okay. Oh no, my camera. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm back. Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way he didn't know how to laugh off. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about. Though you hadn't ever known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. I'm sorry. Me too, I was just wondering. Hey, let's build another sandcastle. The day's gonna be over soon. Ah, you're right. The sun's going down so fast. You all went back to make some more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable for the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least you tried to do something to resolve it, though, and it seemed like it helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But with Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head to your house. The two of you trailed out of the park together towards the neighborhood. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up in thinking about something. What are you thinking about, bud? Something was definitely up, so you chose to reach out to him and ask. Hey, is everything okay? You're making a funny face. I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again for a few more seconds, then he sighed. Why'd Shiloh act like that when I said he was all red a lot? He gets embarrassed, yeah. Embarrassed, but I didn't say anything that bad. It might have upset him anyway. I guess. I can get it. Why he would do that. Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. Hey, was Shiloh telling the truth? Huh? His gaze left yours as he dug the sole of his shoe into the ground. He looked oddly vulnerable for a second. Does my dad Make you hang out with me? I know we talked to your moms about a lot of that. An uncomfortable weight settled in your chest with the question. You liked spending time with Cove. You didn't even have to think hard about it, you just knew you did. But you couldn't help feeling guilty. Cove still didn't know what happened when you met Mr. Holden. Nobody's making me spend time with you. His shoulders relaxed. You hadn't even noticed that he had tensed up. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Anyway, I didn't think you were pretending. I just wanted to make sure that it was okay is all. Thanks for telling me. Your throat tightened. It was hard to meet Cove's earnest gaze again. Keeping secrets was hard. You're welcome. By now, the two of you are on the sidewalk near your houses. It was time to part ways. I'm gonna nudge his shoulder. You reached over and gave Cove a fond push forward. Bye, see you tomorrow. He laughed a little and playfully pushed your hand back. He didn't mind the bit of rattiness at all. Bye. Then you jogged towards your house. Bye, sorry. A little out of character there. When you looked back, you saw Cove making his way back home too. As if he felt your eyes on him, he turned around. He waved. You did too. You still felt a little unsure with what you were supposed to do, but the deal Cove's dad had offered. You didn't want to say something bad or something you shouldn't. You had no idea how Cove would take it either. It would be terrible if it made him feel bad, but what if he didn't want to play with you anymore? You might change your mind sometime. There was always tomorrow after all, but for now it was definitely something that you keep to yourself. With a final look, you went inside your house. You know what? I think that, I feel like I would probably not tell him. At least until, like, I'm older, you know? Like, later on I'd be like, haha, your dad offered me money when we originally, you know, like when we were kids, when we first met. I, of course, said no, but, you know, I just thought it was funny to, you know, reminisce about it, right? We're gonna go with a long day. We're gonna do that next. Okay. It was another scorching summer day, the kind where no sooner had you finished one cup of water, you were already filling it up again. Everyone else had something on, so that afternoon it was just you and Shiloh. This didn't happen much, especially since COVID arrived. Without Lizzie around, Shiloh looked to you for all the answers. It made you feel... Ugh, that would make me feel frustrated. Would I... Yeah, we're gonna go with frustrated. Okay. He was always wanting to hear what you thought instead of giving his own opinion, and expected you to come up with all the plans. It was hard work, especially for such a hot day. You drained yet another drink and frowned at the empty vessel. Your thirst was gone, but you still craved something icy, cold, and refreshing. Something sweet. Something like... a popsicle. You wanted something fruity and brightly colored. There was nothing like that to be found at home. You knew that without needing to look. Your moms didn't keep sweets in the house. What the hell? Both of them are almond moms? Outside, there were plenty of places where such goodies could be obtained, but there were shops and demanded payment in exchange for their products. I'm gonna voice that out loud. I want a popsicle. Okay. Shiloh, who had been draped over the sofa, perked up. Yeah, that sounds good. We don't have anything like that in the house, and I don't have any money. Oh, let me check if I have any. I could have bought a popsicle with the money from his dad. Is that what happens? Okay. Shiloh rummaged in his backpack and proudly produced an assortment of coins, plus one stray button. You set the button aside and counted the coins in neat piles. Just over $1. You noticed Shiloh. He had almost certainly come to the same conclusion, but he'd been watching you expectantly. It's a start. He beamed at you. We'll need to find some more. Okay. The two of you lifted couch cushions, stuck tiny hands down deep crevices in the sofa and under furniture, and scoured the back of drawers. Most of what you found was useless or gross. Bent paper clips, fluffy wisps of dust or sandy crumbs, but every so often one of you would strike silver or bronze and add to the growing pile of coins. Dusty and disheveled from checking every room and squinting into every tiny nook, the two of you finished pooling your finds. Shiloh held his breath as you counted the coins once again. $2.53 and 2 buttons. Oh no, hold on. I'm being bombarded by my little one. Okay. You didn't know when the second... Ew, don't burp. In my face. You didn't know when the second button had decided to join the party, but you were too pleased with your successful haul to throw it out. Is that enough? You figured he knew the answer without looking at you for confirmation, but the thrill of your success and the reward that you would follow canceled out any other feelings you might have had about that. Yeah. You could now afford something at the shops. Just one thing, but that was infinitely better than none. Shiloh clapped his hands. Yay! The two of you dashed outside. The promise of sugar buoyed you on to your destination, where, breathless but happy, you stared at the overwhelming number of options. You knew what you wanted, but it wasn't just you who had contributed the funds to get the treat. He seemed to notice your pause. Aren't you getting a popsicle? Shiloh asked as though he was entirely separate from the decision rather than someone with a stake in the outcome. Do you mind? Shiloh cocked his head to the side. It was your idea. You should choose. I'm gonna try and get something we both want. He helped. It wasn't fair for you to be the only one to decide when he'd been a main factor in making this happen. Some of the money came directly from his backpack. What do you like? All of them. They're so good. You pressed further. But what do you really like? Popsicles or ice cream? Which is your favorite? It's hard to pick. I don't know. Frustrated, you cut to the heart of the matter. You want me to choose? Yeah. And that was that. You got the dessert you wanted originally and hoped Shiloh would actually like it too. Finally, the reward for all your hard work was in your hands. You sucked on the fruity popsicle you'd bought. The icy treat cooled you down perfectly, and the zesty flavor was refreshing. You held it out to Shiloh so he could take a turn. He shook his head.
You can finish it.
He didn't want any? After everything you did to help it. That was weird. I would hesitate, yeah. You want it more than I do. And I'm really happy we got to play today already. You finish it. Well, it wasn't worth arguing further. The frozen tree was being worn away by the sun and starting to trickle dangerously towards your fingers. If you waited much longer, then neither of you would be getting to eat it. Alright, thanks. The two of you began to head back home as you ate. You offered the treat once more, but he refused again. You walked side by side on the shore in silence, but your thoughts kept drifting to the boy beside you. Why didn't he speak up for himself? It was almost as if he didn't know how to say what he felt, or he was too afraid to. Are we friends? Shiloh opened his eyes wide, seemingly caught off guard by the blunt question. Yeah, I think so. He says that, but friends should be able to talk to each other without being all scared. If Shiloh wouldn't do that, were you even really friends at all? He rubbed his hands together nervously over your non-reaction. You weren't sure how sorry he could be without knowing what he's even apologizing for, but you shook your head. You didn't do anything. It was true. Shiloh hadn't done something mean. He'd gone out of his way to make you happy. That didn't seem like it should be a bad thing, yet it bothered you. I just want to make sure that the lawnmower's not causing any issues. Okay. It was true. I already read that, just kidding. Okay. I just don't know if you like me. It's like it doesn't matter what I do. You're gonna act the same. I could be anybody and you wouldn't care. No, I like you. I really, really like you, Evie. I want to be friends. Okay. You smiled hesitantly at him, and his fidgeting ceased. Even though you weren't sure if you believed him, this was only making things worse. You decided that maybe there were all types of friends. If Shiloh wasn't able to do things differently, this would have to be alright. Shiloh made you unsure about setting a label on the experience of spending the afternoon with just him. There had been good times and there had been confusing ones. You were positive of one thing at least. The treat was delicious, and that was nice. The sun was low on the horizon as you returned to your neighborhood. There you spotted two very familiar figures up ahead, Lizzie and Cove. You opened your mouth to make your presence known to him just as you saw the tears on Cove's face. You walked straight over, Shiloh at your heels. Once there, you... Yeah, what happened? Without a time machine, the only way you were going to find out was by asking the witnesses. Lizzie might have done something wrong, but she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or even come to Cove's aid. You wanted to hear the story. Cove, what happened? Evie, I got yelled at. He took a deep, steadying breath. Some grandparents got mad at me. Oh, sorry. Lizzie jerked her head in the direction of a nearby house. Your heart sunk. You knew exactly what had happened. Every year, the same mean old couple rented out that condo for summer. You, Lizzie, and Shiloh knew to stay away from them, but Cove couldn't have. They're like that with everyone. Even your mom struggled to find anything nice to say about them, but the elderly pair particularly took offense to kids. It didn't matter if they were really nice like Cove. Yeah, Lizzie said. Lizzie drew herself up at that. She looked pointedly in your direction. I was helping. That's cool. Is there anything I could do? No, I'm just gonna stay away. Or you could teach them a lesson. There was a devilish glint in her eyes. What? You should ding-dong ditch them. Go ring the doorbell and run. It'll be great because they're so slow they'll never catch you. That's dumb. I don't want to go near them ever again. Ooh, she did not, girl. Cove glared, but he didn't take the bait. Lizzie turned to you. You're not chicken, are you? I'd rather just avoid them. You looked at the house. Behind those closed doors lurked two beings, rich in years but poor in patience. Maybe they deserved retaliation. Maybe they didn't, but that punishment wouldn't be coming from you. It was safer to stay far away from them, especially since Cove took their outbursts to heart. I'm not doing it either. Another chicken for the coop. This is a hen house now. If we're chickens, you're a lizard, Lizzie. She wagged her tongue at his face. Still better than a bird brain. Chick, chick, chicken. The condo door opened, revealing one of the two culprits. The old man's wizened face was set in a scowl, which was to say he looked exactly like he always did when you saw him. Maybe that was his normal face. What are you kids doing loitering outside my house? Or maybe he was just always in a terrible mood. Nothing. Nothing. He repeated the word as if it was the greatest crime anyone could commit. Nothing good more like get lost. Oh, I love old people. It wasn't as if he owned the space outside the house, but Cove's eyes, still red from his earlier tears, were wide and you thought it would be best to heed the old man's command. Lizzie took off, with Shiloh immediately trailing off without her as so much as a glance back in your direction. So much for your friendship. You waved your arm at Cove, summoning him to follow you, and ran after Lizzie. The old man's hollers propelled you all from the street to the sanctity of the hill. Once you were safe, did you notice the stitch in your chest and the ache of your legs? You flopped down, the blades of grass tickling your face. Lizzie, who'd taken the lead in the end, was already lazing on the ground. The four of you took a moment to catch your breath and enjoy the feeling of cool grass against your skin. Hey, Cove. Cove lifted his head. I told you there were mean grandparents around here. Cove rolled his eyes, then decided this wasn't dismissive enough and rolled his whole body away from your sister. Okay. Lizzie chose to ignore his response and started chatting to Shiloh, who eagerly joined in the conversation. In the back of your mind, you always knew you'd be second fiddle again to Shiloh once Lizzie came around. It always went like that. And it was fine. Shiloh could prefer Lizzie as much as he wanted to. There were other things to attend to anyway. You wriggled closer to Cove. He'd calmed down for the most part, and was inspecting a flower, his fingers pinched around the stem and tilted the white petals towards him. That's a poppy. Cove glanced at you in acknowledgement, then back to the flower. And the type of poppies on this hill have the name white linen poppy. Mom told me. He quirked a smile. That's funny. He ran a finger around the edge of the petals. It doesn't feel like cloth. You'd need a lot of them to make anything. He nodded and released the delicate plant, evaluation complete. This is my favorite kind of flower, but I didn't know what it was called. Thanks. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of choices. I. Oh my god. I'm gonna type my own answer. Type in your favorite flower. Please don't capitalize or pluralize the word. Example, carnation. Okay. Do I just go for it? Oh. Lily. Oh, don't capitalize. Lily. Uh-huh. A lily, huh? Neat. Thanks. You moved on to your back with a small smile and looked at the darkening sky. That's a beautiful portrait, huh? The blanket of clouds reminded you of a thick throw you curled under on cold, rainy days. You wondered if the clouds would be as soft. They lazily floated on by, splitting from each other, merging and morphing into new shapes. You saw an alpaca. I saw cloud shapes. Yeah. You nudged Cove and pointed it at the sky. What does that look like? Cove looked up at the sky, angling his head back to the side. Finally, he shook his head. I don't see anything. Really? Really? What do you see? Clouds. He chuckled at that. Yeah, I was never good at, like, finding shapes in clouds. Unless it was, like, something really, really prominent, like Mufasa. Yeah, it could be like a Lion King situation. All the sun's light faded from the sky and the moon rose higher. Lizzie got to her feet, dusting strands of grass from her bare legs, and surveyed her surroundings. The ocean, visible from the crest of the hill, beckoned with every sweep of the tide. Let's go to the beach. There was no argument from the other two. Shiloh was still Shiloh, and Cove would never say no to going to the shore. He was a child of the sea. You... I'm happy to do what other people want, because I bossed Shiloh around all day, right? The beach wouldn't necessarily have been where you chose to go next, but if that was what the others wanted, then you weren't going to spoil the fun. You stepped onto the sand for the second time that day, but it felt different at night. The beach was nearly quiet at this hour. Abandoned sandcastles and footsteps in the sand, too big to belong to any of you, were the only indication of how busy it had been an hour earlier. The four of you kicked shoes off and removed socks and walked along the water's edge. The waves tickled your feet. I wonder what would happen if you tried to take a bath in the ocean, with shampoo and everything. That would be bad for the fish.
Jeez.
I didn't say anyone would do it. Geez, you don't have to be so serious about everything. You're the one who asked what would happen. That is what would happen. It would hurt the fishes. I like bubble baths at home. They're a lot of fun. Me too. Bubble baths are luxurious. You'd never heard Lizzie use that word before. Mommy loves to have bubbles in her bath. She'll turn the lights off and have candles. I'm gonna do that next time. Hey, when's your mom coming to pick you up anyway? Not for a while. She's busy. What about your dad? How come you never talk about him? Nobody does. Don't you know you're not supposed to ask something like that? Why would somebody want to talk about something they never talk about? You kept your eyes on the ground, watching your toes get swallowed by waves. Even if Shiloh never seemed upset when this topic came up, it made you feel awkward for having both of your moms. It's okay. I'm like Lizzie and Evie. I don't have a dad. But I don't have two moms. I just have one. She's really great. Oh, sorry. I only have one now, too. My mom isn't here. She's back home. It's just my dad with me.
Sorry.
Aw, I never had a dad or anything, so I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mom's gone. Cove nodded. Yeah, even if they're all different, our parents are good in their own ways. Yeah. Cove couldn't muster a response. You don't think he truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash as Lizzie kicked in your direction. Cold water and sodden sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled, foot still outstretched from the kick. What a bitch. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, Cove joined in, striking the incoming waves to make a splash of his own. Shiloh scurried out of the cove's spray zone with a grin. I ran away, far away. You were already too dirty and wet for comfort. Nothing that happened there would feel as good as getting dry. You got out of the water before anyone could catch you again. Perching on a rock, you scraped the wet sand from your legs as you watched the others. The sand came away in thick chunks at first, like clay, but where it had been thinner, it already dried and clung to your skin. Cove and Lizzie were relentless, while Shiloh mostly just dodged. Shiloh's brief exclamation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, caused by him falling face first onto the ground. Poor dude! That would have been bad enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. He sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming in from the rain, as you all hurried over to check on him. His hair was plastered to his head, and his soaked clothes clung. If there was any part of him that still was dry, you couldn't see it. That was crazy. Are you okay? Yeah, my foot got stuck and I fell over. Way to go, Shiloh, you Dumbo. He offered him help. Shiloh didn't take your outstretched hand. After a moment, you dropped it. Lizzie was too busy snickering to notice and held her hand out to Shiloh, too. He reached over and took it. Slowly, he started to pull himself up from the ground. Then he slipped on the slick sand, dragging him and Lizzie down just in time for another wave to hit. The water rolled over them.
Sorry.
Oh, poor guys. What were the odds of that happening twice in a row? You thought they must be low. But there's no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose, then pretend it was an accident, especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh felt unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favorite. Right? Smiling boldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped a streak of sand from her cheek. She didn't intend to let this embarrass her. Shiloh got up again as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you made the journey way back home, leaving a trail of wet footsteps and sand in your wake. Damp clothes may have weighed down some of the group, but your spirits were high. Your arms swung to side as a cool breeze flowed past. Your moms were outside, chatting to Cove's dad. We're back! Your mom's faces fell as they took in the state you were all in, ranging from messy to soaked.
Now.
Elizabeth, is that all you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you. They certainly did. What's Marigold going to do when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be for the long drive home? Cold and filthy? Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it also meant she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's matted hair. You've been making memories, bucko? I'm glad you had a good time with your friends. Cove used his slightly moist cast arm to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed even that had gotten wet. Now he was worried too. I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and had just as much fun. That might be right, kids. What can you do? Come on, Cove, let's go get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want that cast to have to be reset. Cove winced at the thought.
Okay.
Attaboy. Mr. Holden casually bent down and plucked Cove up off the ground, ultimately holding Cove against his chest. Sam was already transferring from Cove onto him, but that didn't seem to bother Mr. Holden. Cove protested being carried, but only got a reassuring pat on the back for his trouble.
Take care.
Good night, Cove. Thank you for the talk, Cliff. Night, Peasy family, and Shiloh too. Resigned to his fate, Cove twisted his body into his dad's arms in order to turn around and wave goodbye. Smiling, he waved back. Good night.
Fine.
Well, we better do what we can to fix you guys up. Come on, everybody inside. I want you to march straight to the downstairs bathroom.
Ugh.
Yes, Mom. Okay, Lizzie's mom. You don't worry about stopping to wet your feet on the mat this time. That won't do much good tonight. Sitting on an old beach towel your mommy had found, you waited in the hall. Until you were less sandy, you weren't allowed to go to your room or walk around the house. But you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there. Felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Shiloh would wash first and borrow some of your clothes. He was already finished and packed away in his mom's car. Miss Fields had come to collect him a little while ago. It was a bit of a funny experience seeing him without the hat on for once. Lizzie, being much more soaked than you, got to go into the tub next. It wasn't a bubble bath as she had hoped. This was no fun allowed cleanup session. At least that's what she claimed. Not much longer, then it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad there weren't going to be any further events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. Okay. I'm gonna save. Yeah, boy. And then I will go ahead and pick this up in the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, follow me on all platforms. EVPZ94. Anyway, see you in the next one. Bye.